Hello, this is a little different for me. I'm currently in a hotel room. This is actually the second time that I've filmed this video. Tried to film it once at my house, and I went to go edit it, and all of my footage was out of focus. So nailed it. I do feel like every person who makes videos at some point probably has that moment though, where they put their card in, look at the footage that they spent hours painstakingly talking into the camera, and it looks not right. This video is my look back at year 2 of being fully self-employed, doing music production and creating, content and all of that kind of stuff. Been a very great year. If you want to check out last year's first year end review, I will put that up here. But yeah, this will be year 2 looking back at 2024. What a cool year. I know a lot of people had like hit or miss years in 2024. I had a surprisingly, I would say, good year overall. Definitely positive overall. And we're gonna go through, I have some notes here. We're gonna go through a couple different sections. I wanna talk about how it looked in terms of music production, how it looked in terms of content, financially, how it looked, and then some overall wins and losses that maybe didn't make it into those 3 categories. So first up, music production. I probably worked on more productions in 2024 than I had my entire career prior. I did so many projects in 2024. Honestly, almost to my detriment, to be honest. It was a lot of projects. There's good and bad that came from that. On the good side, much more money and coming in and projects coming in and getting more projects and all that kind of stuff. On the other side of it, significantly less time with myself and my family, and just like downtime in general. Didn't really have a whole lot of that. I told a friend, I was talking with him about year in review stuff, and I was like, I think I probably worked 50 to 60 hours a week on average, maybe some weeks even like closer to 80, just because there was just so much to do, just constantly. I don't necessarily hate that I had to do that, but also I definitely want to make some changes with that. We'll talk about that closer to the end. On the positive side of the music production, I do think that I was making some of the best mixes and productions that I've made, arguably in my whole career at least. I want to give a shout out to the band This Surrender, who had me come in and mix 2 of their EPs. It's bittersweet, this search of mine. Also want to shout out my homie Shama, who had me mix a ton of singles for him this year, a ton of which did really well, namely on Instagram, but did really well numbers wise. We did a spoof on Be Our Guest for first time guest church stuff.
Be our guest, first time guest.
And everyone seemed to really like that one. We did a smoking hot wife song about pastors who call their wives smoking hot, which is dumb, and I don't know, we just make dumb music sometimes.
I'm a pastor with a smoking hot wife. God bless me with a smoking hot wife. None of y'all got a smoking hot wife. Only I got a smoking hot wife. Smoking hot life. I got a smoking hot knife if you got smoking hot strife.
Shout out to my friend James Tucker. That was really cool working with him on a bunch of songs this year. And Andrew Wooten. I will try to tag everybody below in the description if you want to check out some of the songs I did with all of them this year. Yeah, it's been a weird year, full of really, really cool stuff, but like I said, a lot of stuff. Production wise, I think the thing that I learned the most is that I need to give myself more breaks. I would definitely mix myself into some corners sometimes on a lot of these records where I'm taking hours to, hone in on a thing when I really need to be looking at the broader mix, or maybe, I just needed to step away from the song for a little bit and come back to it with fresh ears, especially mostly on the mix side. I feel like production wise, I was pretty fast and kind of let things go a lot more. But from the mixing side, which I did a ton of mixing work this year, I tended to like put more time and effort into it. And like, you know, I want to do well. I want it to do well, but I tended to put a lot more time and effort into those and, you know, kind of suffer because of it. Not giving myself correct ear breaks, not giving myself correct time away from the song, just didn't really do a lot for me. Like I tended to really struggle, and like the moments I would take a day or two away from it and then come back to that project were when I had my breakthroughs on that project. I also learned about halfway through the year that I was pushing my drums way too forward. For some reason, I don't know why I was pushing them way more forward than I needed to. So I started pulling those back into the mix a little bit more and not being afraid to, you know, drop them by 5 dB or something if I needed to. I go into this a little bit with my plugins that I used this year video, if you want to check that out. I talked a lot about how I used a lot of clipping this year, and that helped me with some of my like drum control stuff and like pulling that back into the mix a little bit more. I used a lot of standard clip this year, and it ended up making it across, I think, almost every single mix in some way, if not on my master bus or my drum bus, or, you know, I used it to turn some loops into, like, squash some loops down to make it feel a little more even. If they had like really spiky like hi-hats or snares or something, it like really evened everything out a lot more, almost like a limiter. Definitely some new stuff there. And I think the way that the year went, I ended up like producing a ton earlier in the year. Beginning of the year, I made a ton of beats. I think I did a beat a day for the entire month of January. I could be wrong about that. I may have missed a couple days. I believe I tried to do a beat a day all the way through the first month of January and got at least pretty close, if not all the way through. Made some pretty cool stuff, got connected pretty well, got some projects out of that actually. And it was a really cool way to start the year, honestly, in a different way. I've never really done like a challenge like that before. Maybe that'll be something that we do this year. We'll see. I've never really done like a challenge like that before to myself. And I felt that I was trying stuff a lot more with that. I wasn't afraid to just like shoot something out real quick because it needed to get it out. Didn't have time to overthink it. I was just rolling as quickly as I could to try and get a beat out every single day. And I tried to aim for like at least a verse, a chorus, and maybe like a switch up of some kind, or like an intro verse chorus kind of thing. And sometimes I was able to arrange a full like 2-minute production in that day, just depending on how much time I have. But I noticed myself like trying different genres. I noticed myself defaulting to certain genres like lo-fi and hip hop that I could easily like find good samples, mash them up, and create interesting beats around and kind of arrange them differently. That kind of led into me producing more in the front half of the year and getting more production work, making beats for people, producing some projects, doing some additional production on some projects. Shout out to my boys in Hostile Array who have me out to do that for their latest release. And then right before summer, it just like hard switched into me doing a ton of mixing. Like definitely the last 7-ish months of the year were all me just mixing the whole time. It was good. I had to learn a lot. I learned more about my room. I got my VSX headphones around that point too, so I got to put those through some tests, and I think I'm going to start working on that year in review video or 6-month review video, whatever. I need to look back at like actually when I got them. That transition into mixing helped me in the sense of being able to take on more projects because I felt like I could, do a lot more, get through them a lot faster. It also helped because mixing and music production for the first time this year wasn't the only thing I was doing music related. I did a bunch of podcasting work actually this year, and I'll kind of lump that conversation into the music production session. I did a ton of podcasting this year. I started a company with fellow studio owner Brad Phillips. It's called 101 Media. We do podcast production for businesses, and it's been really cool. Got to use my podcasting skills that I've gained over doing almost 140 episodes or something like that, a home studio hangout, not to mention all the other podcasts I've guested on or helped other people start. And so I got to use some of my skills from that stuff that I've been doing the last like handful of years, probably since 2021, to make money, which was really, really cool this year. Coming into 2025, this calendar year that we're in right now, we've grown it more. We have more clients coming down the pipeline, which is really cool. And we renegotiated for a higher monthly rate on the previous client. And that was been really, really awesome, to be honest. And we've been able to start delegating to other editors, and we've been able to delegate to thumbnail artists and all that kind of stuff. And that's been really, really cool, just to have like a consistent monthly thing coming in every single month that, everybody seems to be digging it. A lot different than what I thought I was going to be doing going into 2024. But I can't complain. I'm very happy about it, and it's been super cool to be able to do that on top of the most amount of music production I've ever done in one calendar year. So up next, the content section. So we have my personal YouTube channel that you're watching this on right now. And then we also have my podcast channel, the Home Studio Hangout Podcast. We also have my newsletter. We have short form social media platforms. So let's break down each one of these like subsections of content platform stuff. Let's start with my personal YouTube channel, what you're watching here. I did decent. My goal for 2024, coming from 2023, was definitely different. I think in 2023, I tried really hard to post like a couple times a month, every single month. I posted a lot more in 2023 for sure. Editing was just getting in the way of me actually doing my work, so it became more of an issue. In 2024, I decided to I tried to do one video a month, and I think I did pretty good at the beginning of that idea. I had a sponsor for a couple videos, which was really, really cool. First time getting a sponsor to pay me to make some videos. That was really awesome. I will say I was less consistent this year than I wanted to be. I was really wanting to do one video a month to kind of start building some consistency of like a release schedule. Definitely did not happen. Definitely got stuck in the summer when things just hit the fan of like it being too much work to do at one time. No way I could get the edits out and edit the podcast episodes I was working on at that point and do all of my music production work and keep track with everything and all that kind of stuff. It was just too much. So something had to fall through the cracks, and it ended up being my YouTube channel, which kind of sucks because I really wanted to grow it this year, but at the same time can't do everything at one time. So, gotta have some gives and takes. On the plus side of that, even though I wasn't able to be consistent, I still reached my goal of crossing 1,000 subscribers this year. That is awesome. I crossed 1,000 subscribers, I do believe, like Christmas Eve. I believe it was Christmas Eve, something like that. I remember texting people. It was like around Christmas time. I crossed 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. That's crazy. And I haven't hit the watch hours needed to get monetized yet, but I'm not super worried about that. That'll come with time. 1,000 subscribers was just like my next step goal of like wanting to be able to like really put some time into this thing. And like it's working, it's growing. People are watching, people are commenting. You guys are watching. It's insanely cool to see. And I still hit the goal, even though I wasn't consistent. I might have been monetized probably, or hit the goal sooner if I had been consistent all of last year, which is what it is. But I can't complain because we still hit the goal. So thank you guys for doing that. That was really, really cool. And I'm glad you're here watching. I am doing my absolute best that I can, trying to be more than just a guy on YouTube that just talks about music production, and like a guy on YouTube who like actually still works for clients in music production actively. In college, I had a lot of teachers who talked about doing the thing and taught about doing the thing and hadn't actually done the thing in a really long time. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be one of those YouTubers that falls into the trap of, I talk about this thing because I did this thing and was successful at one point in this thing. And for me, I want to be like a guy who's telling you how it is working in the industry like right now, because I am currently working in the industry like right now every single day. Yeah, so I'm super thankful that you're all here. Moving on to the podcast section of this list. The podcast section, I was actually way more consistent on. Unlike my personal YouTube channel, the podcast just takes a lot less work because it is, a lot simpler to do. I can hop on a call with somebody for like an hour, churn out an episode. The editing takes significantly less time. Over there, we grew a decent amount, not nearly as much as the personal YouTube channel, even though I was more consistent, which is crazy to me, very weird. We posted weekly. We missed a couple weeks, and I had very good reason, but we missed a couple weeks in October. But I don't think outside of that I ever missed a week, which I'm very proud of. And the reason we missed in October is because here in the Southeast, we had Hurricane Helene hit and kind of go through the middle of the Southeast. And the even crazier part is where it stopped near Asheville, North Carolina, is about 30 minutes away from where I live in Greenville, South Carolina. And we were without power for about 7-ish days, something like that. And we were without internet for even longer than that, probably 2 weeks. And I couldn't really work or do anything. I couldn't do any podcasts. Didn't have any loaded up, ready to go in the backlog because I wasn't assuming that a hurricane was going to come and shut everything down for a couple weeks. And so I spent the next couple of weeks after, we got internet and power back on, getting back caught up on projects that I hadn't been able to work on. Then I was able to get back into the swing of things on the podcast. If you want, I did a deep explainer episode of the podcast about that. I'll put that up here for you to check out if you want, or in the description. But I did a longer video about that. And at the same time, I also talked about in that video, if you go watch it, I played with friend and artist James Tucker, who I mentioned earlier, Americana country artist. He asked me to go on the road with him. We played and opened for an artist named Dylan Gossett. We played some huge rooms that was really, really cool. And one was the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. We got to play to a sold out crowd. It's going to be a moment that I will never forget. It is a crazy cool moment of walking out to just eruption of applause and screaming and shouting, and that was really cool. And then people just paying very close attention to us play songs that me and James have worked on together for a long time, and I produced and mixed and had says in and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a moment that it was crazy. Like I said, I go into more of the detail on all this in the video. So if you want to go check that out, that episode of the podcast, I'll leave that down below. Podcast wise though, a big part of it is we did hit 10,000 downloads this year. That was kind of a milestone goal for me this year. The podcast we've been doing since about 2021, and we've been going pretty strong ever since. We crossed our 100th episode. We did 10,000 downloads. It's been a really cool year. We've hit some milestones. On YouTube, it's kind of starting to grow over here on YouTube. It's been stronger on the audio side, weirdly, than it has been on the video side. But the video side's had some spikes that were really, really cool. And so I'm really proud of that too. If you want to go check it out, Home Studio Hangout, it's really cool. It's very low key. I try to bring on really cool people who are working full time or, working very hard in the industry, in the music production, songwriter, mix engineer, mastering engineer. We've brought on some friends of mine that do front house for bands that are really cool. And we've talked to people about finances for music producers. We've talked to people about management for music producers. We've kind of had a whole bunch of different types of conversations. So if any of that interests you, feel free to go check out the Home Studio Hangout I feel like you will probably enjoy it if you like my channel. So overall, kind of a win there. Definitely more of a win than the personal channel this year. Next thing we have that I mentioned was the newsletter. So I have a newsletter called the Music Maker's Handbook. And I will have to say that this is probably the biggest loss I had this year. My goal for this was what I thought at the beginning of the year was pretty light, meaning I didn't have a lot of expectations. I tried not to put too much weight behind, trying to be doing it every single week or multiple times a week. I mean, for me, I was like, I want to get better at writing. The only way to get better at writing is to do the writing, whatever that needs to look like. So I was like, I'll start a newsletter. I can write about things that I listen to and learn, and I'm constantly reading books, business books, music books, constantly obviously talking to people on my podcast, and I'm listening to podcasts all the time about different aspects of like business and life and self-development and all that kind of stuff. I thought it'd be really cool to relate a lot of what I'm learning back to people who are, trying to do the music producer thing and the home studio thing, and, kind of showing what some of I learn, a little bite-sized chunks. My thought was, I write 2 newsletters a month. That seems pretty easy. I was wrong. The ability to sit down and force myself to write was not something that I expected to be so hard. And mainly it's because I've probably never done it before, and that's part of the problem. Is I've never sat down and just forced myself to write like this before. And so even just remembering to make time to do it in my super busy schedule was part of the problem. But number 2 is sitting down and knowing how to get my thoughts out of my head and onto a page, or type it out onto paper or whatever was a huge issue. And then formatting it and all that kind of stuff. It's golly, so much work. Because of that, I definitely was not consistent with this, and it almost immediately, I think I made it a couple months, but it almost immediately fell off the rails of the twice a month schedule. And I've tried to do it some more this year, even in 2025 so far. In January, I've tried to release, a couple. I think I'm just gonna have to cut it back to once a month, at least for now, until I can really get this wrangled in on what I want it to be. I just don't know if it's going to be possible for me to do it right now where I'm at until I can at least build up the habit of regular writing. It's probably going to be kind of tough, which, I don't expect it to be easy. Was kind of hoping it was going to be a little easier than it has been, to be honest. But, nothing worth doing is easy. So we'll get there. If you want to sign up for that, I'll have a link in the description for that. Keep me accountable. If you see I'm not posting, if I haven't posted this month, shoot me a DM on Instagram or something and be like, yo, where's the newsletter? And I will try to do my best to stay on top of that. Some accountability from you guys would probably be great. So I appreciate that in advance. The last section of the content thing would be all of my short form places. I've tried to be pretty consistent with this, and I think I have been. At least 3-ish times a week, which has been pretty great. I've been able to pull podcast clips and kind of use that on Instagram to cross post between my home studio hangout page and my personal page and use that as personal content, which has been really great. My personal content has lacked some, but I've been dipping into different kinds of content. I've been posting on Threads a lot, and posting on Threads has been really interesting because on Instagram, I can post on Threads and then share it as a reel and then shoot some cool moody video with whatever I'm talking about on Threads and then make that into a reel. And Instagram seems to like that too, because it uses a new feature, which, if they offer a new feature, they want you to use it. If you use it, they're probably gonna, bump your video a little bit more. I found that really interesting and an easy way to make some semi-regular content that way. Also, being able to pull clips from other podcasts I was on, I did do that a good bit. Yeah, short form overall, I feel like I was pretty consistent. Having to run a new business that I started and also run my current business at the same time was definitely the priority here. The music production that I was doing for other people and the podcast production I was doing for other people definitely became the priority for me. That kind of brings us into the financials, so we can talk about that a little bit. I have not done my taxes yet for 2024. We're in 2025 right now, but I have not done my taxes yet. So when I get that done, I should theoretically be sitting around somewhere between the 40 and 45 a year mark from the previous year. I think that's me doing a big guess, and editor me can put a number here that I've actually done more actual work in, but this is kind of where I'm sitting. But I know for a fact it is a significant increase from the previous year, which is all I really wanted, right? I wanted to make more so that I could help provide for my family better, and make more so that I could have more opportunities to do more things and outsource things like video editing, and outsource things like short form editing, and outsource things like tuning, which I did a lot this past year. I've even outsourced a couple mixes that was pretty cool. Definitely made more because I was able to just do more things like that and not have to worry about the bills being paid, because the bills were always getting paid. Definitely was less stressed about the money for this year, whereas in previous year, and I think you'll remember, I think I mentioned this in the last yearly video, was pretty stressed some months. I didn't expect the January to be so low and so, not having work. It was something that stressed me out. And then there was a couple other months, I believe it was May of that year, that like really hit me hard because I didn't have a whole lot of work coming in. This year, I was so busy that I don't even know if there was a slow month. I was just constantly working until, from morning to night, every single day until January to December. It was just nuts. Obviously, I made more money because I just nonstop didn't stop working. Now, is that healthy? Probably not. Financially, though, definitely a bigger success this year. Trying to do more in 2025, diversified more, we'll say that, trying to get more from different places rather than just from like solely mixing, trying to get, or solely doing music production, like trying to get some other like things here and there, whether it's like some editing work, some mastering work, some more podcast production work, trying to get that company to grow. And that's been really cool. It would be awesome to get monetized on YouTube and on some other platforms and be able to dive into content monetization side of things. We'll see about that. That's kind of like a pipe dream right now, but we'll get there when we come to it on that. I'm just trying to find some ways to diversify the income a little bit more, because I really believe that like income diversification is one of the strongest ways to keep yourself funded throughout the course of a year and not having to stress about all of the lack of money that comes with working for yourself freelance, and the ebbs and flows and ups and downs of people wanting to hire you all at one time, and then you ain't got anybody trying to hire you for months. So having the diversification of income types definitely brings with it some stability, which in this career for freelance people is much needed. So if you can find some stability, that's great. So last two things, we'll do some wins and losses. I did a longer video about this also on the podcast where I went through wins and losses for the year. We will quickly go through them. I will not go through a long diatribe about any of these. I'm just going to hit them real quick. If you want a longer explanation of these, go check out the podcast episode that I did on these. Win number one, doubled freelance income over 2023. Like I said, just means not as stressed about paying bills. Being able to pay my bills without worrying about if we're going to be able to eat the next week is definitely a plus. Win number two, hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Awesome. Almost monetized. We're almost there, people. Thank you so much. Win number three, Home Studio Hangout crossed 10,000 downloads. All my podcast listeners love you so much. Thank you so much for that. Losses. Didn't stick to my goal of bi-weekly newsletter releases. We talked about that a little bit, and working on a plan to reach that goal in 2025. Loss number two, missed my reading goal by 2 books. This one pissed me off. Loss number three, had to cut back on how much time I put into my hobbies. Barely played video games, Dungeons and Dragons, and read as much this year. Obvious by the fact that I didn't meet my reading goal. Yes, and I also had to miss a lot of D&D. All that kind of sucks. But at the same time, I think there are some things I want to talk about for moving forward this year that I'm very, very excited about. So like I talked about before, last year I got super overwhelmed by how much work I needed to do. And I think I took on too much work in general. So I'm going to, in 2025, attempt to try and slow down a little bit of my work. And I'm really hoping that because I do that, I'll be more selective about my projects. I will be less overwhelmed by how many things I have to do. And that will also keep me good on like my health, like working out, my family, being present for them, being able to do things like these YouTube videos, being able to do things like my podcast, being able to do things like reading, which I love doing. And I've already read a bunch of books this year, and I want to keep being able to read books this year. And the only way I'm able to do that is if I'm not stressed out about work all the time. In order to do that, I'm going to try to cut back on the amount of projects that I'm doing in 2025 and be more selective, not necessarily raise my rates or anything, just be more selective. And I have some things happening with the podcast business that is growing, which is another goal of mine this year, is to grow that podcast business significantly and grow it to the point that it is more self-sustaining. Right now, it kind of relies on me and Brad, the co-owners, to be a lot more involved than I think we want to be. And we want to grow it to the point where we can be more hands-off in general and have like a set of 6 to 10 clients that we're servicing that are like really strong, really consistent, and we're not having to worry about going and finding new clients, and also having to like do a lot of the editing or the audio stuff ourselves. Like we're hiring out a lot of these positions so that we can just work on helping these people create really good storytelling podcasts for their business, to create a better story around their business to grow their brand. So my goal is, because that business is growing, I will be able to not have to worry about taking on as many music production clients this year. I can be more selective and only take the ones that I really feel strongly about and confident in that I will actually want to work on. I want to be more consistent on this YouTube channel. I really want to try to do at least once a month, if not twice a month, YouTube channel releases. I want to keep consistent with that to at least get the ball rolling on this side of things, and continue on the podcast side. Weekly releases that hasn't stopped, hasn't slowed down. Been doing some solo episodes, and those have been really fun, just kind of talking about some things that I'm learning. We're doing a book club over there now, which is really cool. We read Andrew Wong's book, Make Your Own Rules, for the month of January, and we just did this time of recording, we just released our book review episode of that. And we announced what book we're reading for February, which is How to Write One Song by Jeff Tweedy. And, very excited about that book. So that's a book I've been wanting to read for a while. It's really short. So I think that one's going to be really cool. And if you want to go check that out, go do that. We're doing a lot more cool stuff over there on the podcast. I want to keep pushing the envelope on doing more cool stuff on the podcast. Like I said on the newsletter, going to do that once a month, hopefully the first Monday of every month. Hopefully. We'll see. But first Monday of every month is the plan. So we're going to try to do that. And if I can get better at the writing side, like getting my thoughts on down side, maybe I can up that back to the original goal of bi-weekly. That would be amazing. The most important thing for me is this year, I want to spend more time with my family. I want to be more present mentally. I want to make sure that I am around more for my son and my wife. I want to make sure that we are doing fun things, taking cool trips, doing cool stuff, making fun memories, all that kind of stuff. I'm really trying to prioritize them this year as one of the highest priority things that I can prioritize outside of, making sure that we can eat and sleep in a house. So yeah, this was year 2. If you learned anything from this, or if you want to tell me how your year of 2024 went, drop it in the comments below. If you want to check out year 1, I will leave that video right here. And thanks so much for all your love and support. I'll see you over here. Yeah, I don't know how to end this because this is a much weirder video location than I'm used to. I'm sure the people around me have been listening to me talk for almost an hour at this point. So, bye.